want to check your mic to make sure it's on.
Take.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Got the thumb up. Thumbs up from the tech crew, too. All right, I think we're going to transition here. Such a good morning. Well, good morning, and I'm glad that you're with us. My name is Mark. I'm one of the leaders on the team here at Christ Community Church, and I'm really grateful that you're here. Today we have a special opportunity. Some of you have already met this team that has been acting through an organization called YWAM, Youth with a Mission, and they have a base in Dunham, Quebec, and as part of their outreach section of their ministry training, this team in front of me have the opportunity of being in Nova Scotia. And so over the past several weeks, they've been with us, and we've gotten to know them. We've been able to hear from them, be encouraged by them, and they've been doing ministry in our area. And we thought it would be an excellent opportunity before they depart and go back to their base in Dunham to hear from them and to learn from them and to understand firsthand why it is that they're even here and what is God doing in their lives and how we can be encouraged by that. This morning, I just want them to be introduced, and I'm going to turn it over to Rachel. Rachel is one of the team leaders, and she's going to introduce the team.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us here this morning with you. So, as Mark said, my name is Rachel. I am one of the team leaders of this DTS outreach team, along with my co-leader, Alicia. So, I myself come from Montreal originally, but now I live full-time in Dunham at the YWAM base. Alicia is originally from Switzerland, but has been living in Dunham now for about 6 months. Then with us, our students, we have Lison, who is also from Switzerland. We have Sam, who is from Mali. And we have Sarah, who is from Reunion Island.
This morning, we just come together. Rachel and I had a chance to meet this week. And although you may be surprised to find out that the other 4 on this panel all speak very strong French, they're fluent obviously in French, they would say that their English is not as good, but we are going to allow them as much as they would like to speak in English or to be translated as much as they prefer by Rachel here this morning. Their testimonies are good, they're strong, and I believe will be an encouragement to you. I first of all just want us to be aware of what is YWAM. And how does this parachurch organization assist the local church?
Yeah, so as a YWAM team, we come into your church and we say who we are, but I think a lot of people don't actually understand or know, and that makes total sense, what YWAM is and what it does. And so YWAM, as said before, stands for Youth with a Mission. It's an organization that has been around for a fairly long time now. It was founded in 1960. Its original purpose was to bring youth into the mission field, because back then, to be a missionary, you had to go to seminary and you had to be a pastor, and so by the time youth actually got around to going out, they were in their 30s and had kids and were married and didn't have the same freedom as youth do. And so a couple, Lauren and Darlene Cunningham, had this vision to found an organization that would rise up young people without all of that necessity for seminary training and all that complication, but instead just send young people out while they were totally on fire for Jesus without any of those extra complications. Not that children are a complication, but just when you have that freedom of being young and you can go where you want and follow the Lord. And so the organization was founded as an evangelistic mission. That was its original purpose before it ever offered any kind of training. It was meant to send people out and evangelize. One of the very first big evangelism events was at the Berlin Olympics. And since then, YWAM has maintained a presence at Olympics as well, doing evangelism. So YWAM is a threefold ministry. Our focuses are evangelism, training, and mercy ministries. And because those 3 things cover such a broad spectrum of ministry, YWAM is considered more of a family of ministries than it is a centralized organization. There are YWAMers, as we call ourselves, present in over 180 countries all around the world. And so obviously those people in so many different countries are doing very different things. But what unites us all is this vision of YWAM's two main values, which is to know God and to make him known. And so the school that we're doing now, which is a discipleship training school, which is the foundational school that we do with YWAM, it's kind of your entryway into the organization. We look to live out and to teach those two values. So the first 3 months of the school, we are helping people to know God. We have our students in a classroom setting, and week to week they learn different things about his character and the Bible and just about everything under the sun. And then the second half of a DTS is the to make God known part, which is this, where we go out into the world and we practice what we've learned. We go out and we evangelize, we do mercy ministry, we come alongside the local church and assist in whatever their ministries are.
Today, we have the opportunity to hear the testimonies of those who are part of this team, to hear what is it that drew them to this opportunity, and then hear, maybe in the context of strength and rebuild, a little bit about their story. And then after that is finished, we're going to hear a little bit of what they would do to encourage us as those who may see ourselves serving more locally, and others of you who would sense your call is maybe global in the next season of your life. What is it they would say to you and encourage you with this morning? So today, I want us just to continue with that idea of strength and rebuild. I want to encourage you with the idea of telling your story, of how YWAM is now part of your story and what you sense beyond YWAM, because I want to make it clear that YWAM, if I understand correctly, it's a discipleship training school. And you will be finished that school next month. And you will graduate from that school next month. And you will be commissioned to go into all the world and continue, whether it be in your local churches or with other organizations, but you are going to take what you've learned and go out into the world and serve in the way that you've been trained. So I want to hear from each of you, translated or not, a little bit about your story and hear how God has been using YWAM to draw you closer to him. So I'll let you translate. I won't do very well.
Pour moi, j'ai connu YWAM en fait quand j'étais déjà assez petite parce que j'ai grandi à côté d'une base en Suisse.
So for myself, I knew about YWAM at a very young age because I grew up next to a YWAM base in Switzerland.
Et du coup, il y avait des missionnaires qui venaient dans mon église pour témoigner. Et j'avais aussi pas mal d'amis qui ont fait cette école de YWAM et j'ai eu pas mal de bons retours.
And so there would be missionaries that would come and share testimonies in our church, as well as I had a number of friends who did YWAM schools, and I had heard a lot of good things from them about it.
Et depuis assez petite, j'avais voulu être missionnaire ou voyager pour faire de la mission.
And from a very young age, I wanted to be a missionary, or at least have a season in my life where I traveled and did missionary work.
C'était vraiment un souhait que j'avais depuis assez petite. Mais comme j'ai pu enchaîner vraiment toutes mes écoles et mon premier job, bah, du coup, j'avais pas pris le temps de m'arrêter pour faire un temps missionnaire.
And so it's really been a dream for many, many years, but because I did all my degrees back to back, and then I got a job right out of school as well, I just never took the time to go and do it.
Et je suis arrivée dans une saison de ma vie où, pour des situations de santé, j'étais plus en études ni au travail.
And I arrived in a season of my life where, due to my personal health, I was no longer studying, nor was I working.
Et j'avais besoin, en fait, je sentais que j'allais mieux, donc j'avais besoin, en fait, de pouvoir m'occuper et de faire quelque chose qui me construise et qui me fasse. Je me suis dit que c'était la bonne saison, le bon timing pour faire de la mission.
Merci, merci. And so I came to a point where I felt well enough to feel like I needed something new in my life, something that would build me up and prepare me for, I don't know what you said after that, sorry.
La mission.
To prepare me for the mission.
Du coup, pour moi, c'était assez simple de choisir YWAM parce que c'était l'organisation de mission que je connaissais le mieux.
And so for me, it was pretty simple to choose YWAM because it was the organization I knew the best.
Et c'était aussi, vu qu'il y a encore je suis en lien avec des gens qui ont fait aussi YWAM et qui ont pu me conseiller sur quelle base choisir par rapport à ce que je voulais vivre aussi dans ce temps.
And because I knew people who had done YWAM as well, they were able to kind of give me advice and help me to choose where I should maybe go.
Et du coup, voilà pourquoi je suis venue à GEM et pas forcément une autre organisation.
And so that's kind of a brief story of why I chose YWAM and not another missionary organization.
Et juste avant, je disais que j'avais un peu des problèmes. Enfin, juste avant, j'ai partagé que j'avais eu des problèmes de santé. C'est parce qu'en fait, là, je suis en train de sortir d'une dépression de 5 ans.
And so before I just briefly mentioned that I was in a period of not good health for myself. And in fact, that's because I am in the process of exiting a 5-year period of depression.
Et c'était vraiment aussi un souhait pour moi et une prière quand j'ai commencé l'école.
And so it was really a prayer that I had and a desire I had when I started the school.
De pouvoir juste remettre en fait toute ma santé mentale à Dieu et pouvoir reconstruire en fait comment est-ce que je pense et comment est-ce que je réfléchis selon lui et selon sa volonté.
Was to just give my mental health into the hands of God and have His perspective on how I think about things, how I see myself.
Et je vois qu'il a travaillé là-dedans. Je suis encore en processus, mais c'est déjà juste merveilleux.
And I can see that He has worked on that throughout my time. It's still a process, but I can already see the progress that's been made.
Et un verset que j'ai reçu au début de l'école de Dieu et qui me poursuit encore maintenant.
And a verse that I received at the beginning of the school that is still following me now.
C'est dans Néhémie 8:10.
It is in Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 10.
Qui dit « Ne vous affligez pas, car la joie de l'Éternel est votre force.
It says, "Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." »
Et j'aime tellement parce qu'au final, même dans un peu le chaos de ma vie, de mes émotions encore qui sont en train de se restabiliser,
And I really like that because in the chaos of my life, even as my emotions are still learning to stabilize,
je peux garder la joie en fait, parce que juste je sais que Dieu est Dieu.
I can still keep my joy because I know that God remains God.
Et c'est sa joie, lui, qui fait ma force, et ça c'est fou.
And it's His joy that is my strength, and that's just incredible.
Voilà.
Okay, bonjour à tous.
Hello, everyone.
Moi, j'ai connu Jeunesse en Mission depuis très jeune.
So I also have known about YWAM since a very young age.
C'était à travers les Fabricants de Joie, qui est un programme de Jeunesse en Mission.
That was through King's Kids, which is one of YWAM's ministries.
Et depuis tout jeune aussi, j'avais développé une grande passion pour la louange.
And from a very young age as well, I developed a passion for worship.
Et je vivais cette vie, mais je le faisais pour le faire. Je n'avais pas une bonne compréhension de tout ce que je faisais.
And so I came to a point in my life where I was just kind of living life, but I didn't have a goal and I didn't fully understand why I was doing what I was doing.
Et c'est en 2018 que j'ai rencontré une équipe de Jeunesse en Mission.
And so it was in 2018 that I met a YWAM team that was on outreach.
Et ils étaient musiciens, d'autres chantaient, ils étaient des artistes et on a passé un bon moment ensemble.
And they were musicians, they were singers, they were artists, and we just spent a really good time together.
Et je me rappelle quand ils rentraient, ils ont reçu des choses pour moi, ils ont prié pour moi et ils m'ont laissé des paroles.
And when they were leaving, they took time to pray for me and received words for me. They wrote it all down and gave me a card.
Et le leader, sans le savoir, il m'a juste dit « Hey Sam, ça serait bien qu'un jour tu fasses ton EFD. »
And the leader said to me, "Hey Sam, I think it would be a good idea if one day you do a DTS."
Et il ne savait pas tout ce qui se passait dans mon cœur.
But he had no idea that all that was going on in my heart, that I was searching for something, in fact.
Et c'est à partir de là que j'ai décidé de venir à Jeunesse en Mission Dunham.
And so it was from that moment that I decided to come to YWAM Dunham.
Et ma motivation était surtout basée sur ce passage de Luc 10, le verset 2.
And so my motivation for doing a DTS is mostly based on Luke 10, verse 2.
Où la Bible dit que la moisson est grande, mais il y a peu d'ouvriers.
Where you read that the harvest is, what does it say? The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few.
Et c'était une manière pour moi de dire, Seigneur, me voici, forme-moi.
And so it was a way for me to say, Lord, here I am, train me, build me up.
Afin que je puisse être utile dans ton royaume.
so that I can be used for your kingdom.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Hello.
J'ai grandi en connaissant plusieurs organismes de mission.
And so I grew up being aware of a number of different missionary organizations.
Mais à partir de mes 14 jusqu'à mes 16 ans, j'ai rencontré plusieurs groupes de jeunes nés en mission comme nous.
But between 14 and 16 years old, I met multiple YWAM teams, just like we are here.
Et ça a développé un feu en moi. Je me suis dit, moi aussi, un jour, je veux faire ça.
And so it really lit a fire in me where I said, one day I'm going to do that too.
Et l'adolescence est passée, c'est quelque chose que je gardais en tête.
And so even as the years passed, it was something that I kept in mind.
Et vers mes 18-19 ans, j'ai dit à Dieu, OK, je te fais la promesse qu'après mes études, j'irai en mission.
And so around 18 or 19 years old, I made the promise to God that once I'm finished my studies, I'm going to go do YWAM.
Un peu comme Lison, j'avais toujours ce désir de faire de la mission sans vraiment savoir quel aspect de la mission ça allait prendre.
A little bit like Lison, I always had this dream of doing mission, even if I didn't know what it would look like.
Donc, quand est arrivé le temps où le Seigneur m'a dit, c'est OK, c'est cette année que tu fais ton école.
And so when the year finally came where God said, this is the time is now, you're going to go do your DTS.
Je me suis tournée vers Jeunesse en mission.
Or,
Oui.
yeah, anyways.
Et un verset que le Seigneur a utilisé pour me parler, c'est Osée 4:6.
And one of the verses that the Lord used to speak to me was Hosea 4:6.
C'est un verset que j'ai longtemps eu peur et que je trouvais très dur.
It's a verse that for a long time I was afraid of and thought was very hard.
Mais le Seigneur m'a fait comprendre que j'étais cette personne qui avait beaucoup de croyances sur qui il était, mais que je ne le connaissais pas vraiment.
But the Lord helped me to understand that I had a lot of beliefs about who he was, but I didn't actually know him.
Et parce que j'avais grandi dans un contexte chrétien, il y a beaucoup de choses que j'avais mémorisées, mais sans vraiment expérimenter.
And there was a lot of things because I had grown up in a Christian context that I had maybe just memorized, but I didn't have a profound understanding of.
Et que j'étais arrivée à un stade de ma vie où je voulais expérimenter qui Dieu était et pas juste proclamer des choses, mais vraiment le vivre.
And I had come to a point in my life where I wanted to not just proclaim things about God, but to truly know who he was for myself.
Et aujourd'hui, je peux dire que l'école a fait grandement partie du changement de vie.
And so today I can say that this school has been a large part of that transformation in my life.
Parce que le Seigneur a utilisé ces 6 mois à part pour reconstruire l'image que j'avais de lui.
Because the Lord really used these 6 months that I put apart for him to reconstruct the image I had of him.
De briser tous les mensonges que j'avais pu développer au fil des années sans me rendre compte sur qui il était.
To get rid of all the lies that I had constructed over the years of who he was.
Et aussi de reconstruire l'image que j'avais de moi.
And to also reconstruct the image that I had of myself.
Donc, avant, je voulais servir Dieu sans vraiment comprendre qu'est-ce que ça représentait, le service.
And so before I wanted to serve God without really knowing what serving him looked like.
Mais ce que le Seigneur m'a fait comprendre ces derniers mois, c'est que je ne pouvais pas le servir si je ne le connaissais pas.
But what the Lord has helped me to understand in these past months is that I cannot serve him without knowing him.
Et je ne pouvais pas le faire connaître si moi-même, je n'avais pas de solide fondation sur qui il était.
And that I cannot make him known if I do not have solid foundations in him.
So, I mean, of course, I'm a little bit, I'm listening for these words, but when you talk about reconstruction, Sarah, I think about that rebuild, the word that we've been talking about this year, how God wants to reconstruct us, to help us to make us aware of him so that we can then make him known. I loved that. And I like how he strengthens us, whether we're going through difficult times in our lives or we're just looking to become stronger in our faith. God wants to strengthen and rebuild us. And so, Rachel, we had this conversation, but I want you to also, Alicia, chime into this conversation about who is YWAM for? It's perhaps not for everyone. It's for some of us are past the years of YWAM in some ways. But we want to hear who is YWAM for? Who is the person that may be drawn to YWAM? And then maybe you can tell us, Alicia, a little more of your story about how you were drawn to YWAM. Is that okay? Okay.
Would you like that I start, or do you want to
Yes,
share? Okay. So we never want to say that like everybody has to do YWAM and that it's something that is a hallmark part of your Christian walk. That's not it at all. There are certain people that are called by God to come do a DTS, and that's awesome, but there's some people that will never be part of their lives, and that's also fine. But in my time, in my 3 or so years with YWAM, I think I've seen a lot that YWAM is for people that want to know God on a deeper level, that maybe they've spent their whole life with him, that they've grown up in the church, that their family is Christian, but kind of like Sarah said, they're not exactly sure of who he is and how their life is with him, what it looks like to serve him full time. And so that's one category of people that come and do DTSs. I would say that probably explains most of our students in this school. Then you have other stories, like my own personal story. I came to the faith, and days afterwards, the Lord told me to go do a DTS. And so you have this other category of people that are brand new to the faith, and a DTS is just a great way to lay all of those foundations really quickly in a way that you maybe wouldn't get if you're just going to church every single Sunday. And then lastly, I think there's also this category of people that are just on fire for God and want to do something crazy and incredible with him. And so they choose to go do DTS to take these 6 months to just see what miracles God can do. And so I think of all three of those categories, all are the same level of valid, and they all are wonderful reasons to come to a DTS. But that's not to say that it's for everybody. And if you never do a DTS in your life, the Lord is going to use other things to train you and to bring you up in the way that he wants you to be. But YWAM is also very broad, and so there's opportunities to do like just seminars with YWAM or just weekend things. And so you don't necessarily have to have this view that if you don't have 6 months, well, then you can never be engaged with YWAM, because there's so many other opportunities. And so if you are interested, you can come speak to us afterwards. But yeah, YWAM is honestly, it's for everybody. It's not everybody's calling, but it's for everybody.
Yeah. Donc pour moi, c'était en 2021. Sorry. C'était en 2021 quand j'étais dans une période de ma vie plutôt sombre où j'étais triste et j'avais pas de but dans ma vie.
So for me, my journey to YWAM began in 2021 when I was going through a period in life where I was just kind of sad and didn't have a purpose in life.
Et du coup, un jour, c'était en août, j'ai prié à Dieu, je lui ai dit, quel est ton but pour ma vie, parce que j'en avais marre de la vie.
And so one day in August 2021, I just prayed to God and I asked, what is your goal? What is your plan for me? Because I'm sick and tired of life right now.
Et dans cette période-là de ma vie, j'avais beaucoup d'anxiété sociale. J'arrivais même pas à sortir de ma maison toute seule sans être accompagnée.
And this was a season in my life where I was suffering from a lot of social anxiety, and so I wasn't even able to leave my house unaccompanied.
Et là, Dieu m'a parlé de jeunesse en mission. Et c'est la première fois que j'ai entendu Dieu parler aussi clairement.
And so in that moment, God spoke to me about YWAM, and that was the first time in my life that I heard God's voice clearly.
Et pour moi, vu que j'avais de l'anxiété sociale, j'ai dit à Dieu, désolé, c'est pas possible.
And because I had social anxiety, I told God, well, no, it's not possible, I'm not going.
Donc c'était un long combat, et Dieu m'a aussi donné le verset de Jérémie 29:11.
And so it was a long journey of fighting with God over this, and he gave me the verse, Jeremiah 29:11.
Qui dit que Dieu il a des projets de paix et non de malheur pour nous.
That says that God has plans to prosper us and not to harm us.
Et dans ma tête, je me disais, mais comment c'est possible que ce soit un projet de paix, parce que ça va me faire de la peur d'aller dans un avion tout seul.
And so, but I was asking God, how is it possible that this is a project of peace and a plan to prosper me if it's going to cause me massive anxiety to get on an airplane and go somewhere?
Mais finalement, j'ai décidé de faire ce pas de foi.
But finally, I made the decision to take this step of faith.
Et en fait, Dieu a complètement changé ma vie durant mon EFD.
And God completely changed my life during my DTS.
Pour moi, c'était vraiment, on s'imagine que je suis comme une maison avec des fondations, des briques.
For me, it's like if you imagine that I'm a house made of bricks.
Et avant mon EFD, chaque brique était des briques vraiment faibles et on va dire chaque brique c'était des mensonges de ma vie.
And before my DTS, it's as if each of those bricks was very weak. It was like representative of different lies that built my life.
Et pendant mon EFD, Dieu a vraiment juste cassé ce mur.
And during my DTS, God really just like totally destroyed that wall, that house.
Et a reconstruit ma fondation avec ses vérités.
And rebuilt my foundations, but with His truths about me.
Et pour moi, c'est là que j'ai compris Jérémie 29:11.
And it was only in that moment that I understood Jeremiah 29:11.
Et j'ai compris que Dieu nous connaît mieux que qui que ce soit.
And I understood that God knows me better than anybody else, better than myself.
Et qu'il sait qu'est-ce qui est bon pour nous.
And He knows what's good for us.
Et ouais, voilà, c'était juste fou.
Thank you, all of you, for sharing. That's great. We understand the YWAM DTSs are about teaching and worship and intercession and living in community, as you have been doing, which is great. There is a point of graduation, a point of commissioning, and then being sent. And so as we finish, I want us to answer the question about what next. So for you, I don't ever want us to leave the Sunday morning. It's not just about highlighting YWAM, as you mentioned earlier. YWAM is an organization. We want to highlight Jesus. And so how do we highlight Jesus? I want each of you, if you can, to highlight Jesus' work in your life, how He is strengthening and rebuilding you, and how you would encourage others here who want to consider something like YWAM or to do something globally with another organization. How can you encourage them? But even perhaps most importantly, because the majority of people sitting in this room will be staying in this local area or in Canada or in some other, whatever province or area that they normally live in, how can you encourage them to be strengthened and rebuilt by Jesus as He works in their lives? So just tell us in whatever words you would like to share about how Jesus has worked in your life and how you would encourage others, whether they are on a DTS or other organizations ministry or not, or if they're just a regular, I say regular in quotes, but regular person just like me, just living their life for Jesus. How can we be strengthened and rebuilt by Him and encouraged by Him? Whatever words you want to share would be great.
Well, the two things that come to my mind right away are the words obedience and availability. Because at the end of the day, whether you're going to come to YWAM, whether you're going to stay in your local church, whether you're going to choose another organization, it's all about walking in obedience to God. And I mean, I don't want anybody of you to come to a DTS if God has not told you to do so. And so that is the first and foremost, most important part of any Christian walk, I would say, is that as God speaks, you listen and you walk in that word that He gives you. And with that, then making your heart available to do what He's asked you to do. And so if that means, staying in your local church, well, then maybe God is going to ask you, like Sarah and Tony, to go out and do evangelism on the weekends. And even if that's really scary and overwhelming, being available to do it. Or whether it's hosting a small group or a Bible study, whatever that might be, to be available to it and to know that it's not on your own strength, it's not on what your own skills are, it's the Lord that will strengthen you to do the work and the plans that He has for you.
Et si je peux ajouter, moi, ce qui m'a vraiment fortifié, c'était aussi la communauté de GEM.
Something that really strengthened me was the community in YWAM.
Et du coup, de pouvoir rester dans la communauté, de pouvoir partager quand ça va bien, quand ça va mal, et de pouvoir se fortifier les uns les autres.
So even when you're outside of YWAM or in anybody else's daily life, the importance of remaining in community, being willing to share with the people around you your highs, your lows, your wins and your losses, and just truly living out community no matter where life is taking you.
Rachel, elle a parlé d'obéissance et de se rendre disponible, et moi je voudrais rajouter de se rendre vulnérable à Dieu.
So Rachel spoke about availability and obedience, but I just want to add in the idea of being vulnerable with God.
Parce que je pense que dans chacune de nos vies, il y a des circonstances qui viennent nous ébranler.
because I think in all of our lives there are circumstances that come and that are difficult.
Et qu'on peut avoir cette tendance à juste vouloir régler ça par nous-mêmes.
And we have this tendency to just want to fix that on our own.
Et que ça peut être très difficile de juste dire « Ok Seigneur, j'accepte que tu travailles ça et j'ouvre vraiment mon cœur. » C'est pas juste des simples mots, mais se rendre disponible et un état de cœur.
But to say to God that, no, I'm willing to let you do the work in my life and to change the things that you need to change and just have an available heart to be vulnerable with him.
Et dans cette idée de reconstruction, c'est juste de dire « Ok Seigneur, j'accepte et j'admets que j'ai des failles et je te laisse les reconstruire pour que je sois pleinement disponible et que tu puisses m'utiliser. »
And in this idea of rebuilding, to just say to God, yes, I'm aware that I am not perfect, that I have things that are not, that need to be worked on, and to be available to allow him to work in your life.
Okay. Moi, je dirais juste d'avoir confiance en Dieu.
I would say to just trust God.
Parce qu'il va parler.
Because he will speak.
Et tu as juste besoin de lui faire confiance.
And you just need to trust him.
Et dans ma situation, je sais que c'est une longue histoire de comment j'ai pris l'avion et comment j'ai pu avoir le billet.
And so, yeah, for my own story, it's a very long story of how I was able to get on an airplane and come here.
Mais j'ai beaucoup compris que j'avais juste besoin de lui faire confiance et que lui, il fait le reste.
But ultimately, what I learned from that was that I just needed to trust him and that he would do the rest.
I'm going to ask one of you. I don't know who is going to answer this question, but could one of you tell us why someone in this room that doesn't know Jesus should follow Jesus? Can someone tell us from their own story, why would you choose Jesus? Why would you follow Jesus?
Pour moi, c'est juste que Dieu m'a complètement libérée de toutes mes peurs, de toutes les pensées mauvaises que j'avais, de tout et n'importe quoi.
So for me, I would say it's because Jesus healed me of all of my fear, my anxiety, everything that was, all the lies that were present in my life.
Et que grâce à Dieu, je peux vivre en liberté et dans la vérité.
And thanks to God, I can now live in freedom and in truth.
Et que j'ai trouvé un père en lui et un ami.
And that I found peace in him and a friend.
That's good. Well, listen, we already laughed earlier in the morning that this could go on for a long time. But we have an abbreviated conversation here this morning. And if you would like to talk more with them before they leave, we're going to make them available to you just to share. They don't know this, but I'm telling you that they're going to stay and they'll be here available on the platform after the service. And if you'd like just to come and maybe encourage them or maybe ask them a question or maybe have them pray with you or for you, or maybe even you're considering something about God calling you somewhere globally or on mission, whether that's locally or around the world. Why don't you come and just be encouraged this morning? If you just have a couple of minutes after the service, we would love to meet with you. Well, I would love for you, if you would, just to pray with us and for us. And if you have anything finally that you would just like to encourage the church with, I'll leave it with you. But if you could just close us with prayer, that would be wonderful.
First, I just want to say a word of encouragement to you guys. I already shared this a little bit with Pastor Mark a couple weeks ago. But for me personally, this is one of the most impactful churches I've ever had the pleasure of being in. And I've been to a number of continents at this point with YWAM. So just keep doing what you're doing because there's something really special here. And the presence of Jesus is super, super tangible in this space. Jesus, I thank you for this wonderful church, for this congregation that comes to you weekly with their hearts wide open to you, God, with this burning desire to know you more, to serve you more. And God, I just pray that you would come and meet that desire. I know that you will come and meet that desire, Jesus. I pray that you'd be speaking to each and every person in this room, from the littlest children to the ones with the most experience. We won't say oldest. but that you just be speaking what your plans are for their lives, God, because there's not one person that you've forgotten. There's not one person that you don't have good plans for. And whether we are young or old or new to the faith or have been with you forever, God, you have good plans for us, and that it is never too late to do something radical and drastic with you, God. And whether that is in our own cities or around the world, God, you have plans. And so, God, I just pray that your plans would be fulfilled through each and every person that is within this church in this moment. God, thank you for the opportunity it has been for our team to come and just worship and fellowship with these people, these beautiful brothers and sisters in Christ, God. Lord, we will carry them with us as we go forth. And I just pray that, your blessing would be upon this church, upon this congregation, upon each and every singular life here, upon us as a team, and that at the end of the day, Jesus, you would remain the center of all that each and every one of us do, that you would reign over each of our lives. Amen.